Hi. Good morning. So I'm sitting here in my room, pretty much talking to myself because, I'm kind of that spicy neuro, going over something in my head. And here's what we really, really need to put a pin in, really highlight for your brain. The people who are elected, the people who are serving as police officers in the United States military, who are in positions in the government, are people who have been entrusted in the governing and protecting of our communities. The national community and every individual community that they reside in, their local jurisdictions. That trust has then empowered them with all the tools that they need to get stuff done for the people as a whole. These are commonly mistaken as positions of power. I think we need to stop seeing them like that. These are positions entrusted to them. These are positions of greater importance with varied authority, but only for the purpose of the safety, enhancement, and growth of our nation. That responds to the overall society of the people, to change laws to reflect what society finds appropriate these days, to update and remove outdated, antiquated laws. Like if laws about women's autonomy had been removed from several states' books due to the legality of Roe versus Wade, there would not have been any regressive action when that was essentially revoked or upended. They would then have had to go through legislation to do something about that. Or on a federal level, or due to the federal level of it. Or, I mean, it would have had to change, right? And every state standard was basically what the national standard for Roe versus Wade was, okay? Let's just make that clear. And the difficulty that we have is that living life day to day and then having people in these positions of trust allows for the most dangerous component that has been abused. We check out, the average person. We stop participating in our communities to a fuller effect. We stop self-educating. And the school system doesn't educate appropriately on civics. I think I got how the government works maybe up through middle school and then maybe a little bit of basic stuff in high school. But for the most part, we moved on to other subjects. So we didn't get it as often, how the government works and why it works for you and why it's important for you to participate. Much less appropriate history on what civilian practice has been throughout time in our United States, or even in other countries. These are not positions of power. That's giving words to something that we misconstrue, because the people who hold those positions want to feel powerful, and they want you to feel lowly. They want you to feel as though, even though every election cycle, and we have we have a shit ton of elections in our country, which most other countries don't have. But they have to keep coming back to us and shifting from what they've actually done, if they've done anything, because sometimes they just sit there and they don't do anything. They talk a lot. They're on committees. They now have, podcasts that they do along the side. They now have other things that they go and they shout out their personal opinion. And I get that they have a personal opinion, but when you sit in a position that is placed, a position of trust to take care of what the people would like, you have to listen to the people. That is literally part of the job. And you sit there and may go, I, in my religion, personally don't agree with this, but the overarching sentiment in my state is that people want this. Therefore, people will get it. Not to abuse the facts or to outright fucking lie in order to get it your way, because you're in this position and you're going to retain this position and you're going to make it hard to fight to get you out of this position because now you are in a position of power. Legislatures were meant to turn over frequently for a reason. Multiple perspectives and the overall greater participation of the people within our own government, because we are the ones that give them power. This is a position of fucking trust, people. It is not a position of power. It has been transmuted into a position of power, but really, ultimately, nothing has changed very much along the time, except for the propensity for it to be a career placement, except for the allowal of inappropriate outside influences, i.e. corporations, to put huge amounts of money instead of having it government giving you money for your campaign. And adding a salary to these positions that were never meant to have a salary. Otherwise, the founding fathers would have put a fucking salary on them from the get-go. These were people who were like, hey, when it's slow on the farm, we're going to come out here and do legislation. And we're going to talk and have these continuous discussions and discourses among all of the government. But we're going to be slow to make laws because that's how it's supposed to be. You don't just slam shit together and do it in the dark of night before people actually have a chance to read it. You discuss it, you put information about it in the paper, you are very open and transparent about what is being talked about, and you listen to the sentiment of your people on the subject, and then you make decisions based on that. Whether you personally fucking agree to it or not. If you disagree with it, then you do not go into government to dictate to other people, to the majority who don't hold your same opinion. Because what we're looking at is situations where people's personal choices are being removed. Those personal freedoms are being removed. And it won't take long before it's removed from you, the person who hasn't yet been touched by this, until it starts touching on you. And then by then, it's a lot too late for you to really do much of anything other than stand with the group that you've been making fun of, who may not want you to stand with them. These are positions of trust that have been empowered with the ability to get things done. These are not positions of power. The American people holds all the power. You hold power. Not just in your vote, but in appearing at town halls, in being on the street, in taking care of other people's children so they can be on the street, in making meals, in driving people, in participating in your local government, in educating yourself so that you understand how things actually work, so that you can hear the lies when they get said to you. To know the difference between different ideologies of economics. You don't have to be an economist to understand the basics in that. It's really, I promise you, it is not hard, but it's a lot of information that feels really intimidating that you should already fucking know. Failure of our school systems. The shit used to be taught. Back in the 20s and 30s and 40s, into the 50s, it used to be taught. And then as we edged into the 60s and 70s, these curriculums started getting changed. Because it doesn't serve, especially as we went through the 60s, it doesn't serve the people who are sitting in these positions of trust who are trying to make them into positions of power, which has been a play of the wealthy and the privileged for a long time, to sit in a position of power for as long as humanly possible, to make a position of privilege one of actual power, while making you think you are powerless. Get together, get out there on the street. We've got to be out in such big numbers, that they cannot fathom succeeding, that they are very much afraid that they're going to lose their current position. And then just for the fucking attempt, you make sure they lose their positions because they attempted to take away your power, take away my power, and to make life that is already hard enough for the average American even fucking harder. For blatantly lying to you. That is how you start to repair things. Also, is by not being in those places of dissidence. That doesn't mean you have to go to the left. It doesn't mean you have to do anything silly like that, but you do have to recognize where maybe you were hearing one thing and why that felt okay in your brain, and when it started to not feel okay, and why that is. You got to look at yourself so that you can gird your fucking loins and you can look back at the assholes and you can go, you've just abused our trust. You've been abusing our trust, and I recognize that now. Now you will be removed. And being willing to participate in their removal. That is how we win this. That is how life not only gets back to a normal, but gets fucking better. Because now you will know better and you will be able to put better people in place. Don't get distracted by the bullshit. We can't get mad at every little thing. We can't throw a fit and hyper-focus on little bullshit things. Just put it in the queue of, interesting detail, and focus on the really big, important things, which is shifting who we actually put into these positions of trust. It needs to be people who will actually fucking respect the position and respect us in return. We're being hella disrespected. It's time to take it back. We'll see you in the streets.